In this video, we'll be hunting a box of nickels. We'll of course be looking for anything from before 1960, including Civil War nickels, Buffalo nickels, or anything older. We'll also be looking for any proofs, foreigns, errors or varieties, or any other cool things we can find. And we do have a great ender in this box. Right here, we have a modern looking proof ender, which is an awesome ender. Hopefully it's a good sign for the box. And let's start the hunt, and I'll bring you in when we have our first find. Roll 3 had the first find of the box, and it's from the early 40s, and it is 1940 from San Francisco. Roll 5 had a couple more finds. First, we have another nickel from 1940. This one's a Philly, and we have 1959 Denver. Next roll had another nickel from the 40s, and it is 1949, minted in Denver. Next roll, and we have 50s nickel number 2 of the box, and it is 1954 Philly. Again, next roll, and the finds are continuing. This time we had a couple common late 50s, just in 1958 and 1959, both from Denver. Next roll again, and the finds are continuing. This time we have a 1947, minted in Philly. Just opened roll 11, and we're going to have the first Canadian nickel of the box. I can already see the date. It's in 1983, first foreign of the hunt, and this won a couple coins before. It looks pretty old. Yeah, it has a Denver mint mark, looks pretty worn, and it is in 1941 Denver. Next roll, and we got an older Jefferson as a slightly better date. First, we did get the first 2009 of the box, pretty rough shape, but we also got a 1958 out of Philly, and there is actually some detail on the steps, and it's in pretty nice shape, and that's a better date. Hunting through roll 18, and I just uncovered a Reavers with a San Francisco mint mark, which means this nickel is going to be from 1954 or older. Hopefully it's a better date. Either way, we do have a San Francisco minted Jefferson, which is always a great find. And it is 1946S. It's not a semi-key date or a key date, but I definitely don't see 46S's too often. Either way, that's a good find. Roll 20, actually I had 4 finds. It was a pretty good roll. First we have a couple from the 40s, 1946 Denver, and a 1949 Denver. Then we have a pair of 1958s, both from Denver, and this last one is in pretty good shape. That was a pretty good roll. Roll 22 had another nickel from 1940, and this one is from Philly. Roll 24 had a couple nickels from the 40s, and they were 1940 from Philly again, and 1948 from Philly as well. Roll 25, halfway point of the box, and we have a couple more finds, and they are 1947 out of Denver, and 1958 from Denver as well. Roll 29 had a couple nickels from the 50s, and they are 1954 and 1958, both from Denver. Roll 33, and I just already pulled out 1958 from Denver, but I just uncovered a nickel with an S mint mark, and as I said earlier, this means it's from 1954 or earlier. This one's in okay shape, probably from the 50s, but let's see what it is. And it is in 1953 San Francisco. Another San Francisco minted Jefferson is always great to see. Roll 38 had a few finds from the 50s, and they are 1954 Denver, 1957 Denver, and 1958 from Denver again. Just opened roll 40, which was that proof ender. Don't see anything else in the roll, but here's the proof. It does have a little bit of the ring of death on top right there, but based on the strike, I'd say it looks like a modern proof. Let's see what year it is. And I was right about it being modern, and it's a 2009 S proof. Definitely been in circulation for a while, probably the majority of its lifetime to be honest, but either way, any proof nickel is a great find. Roll 43 had a couple of nickels from the 50s. First is a pretty nice 1955 from Denver, and it also had a 1957 from Denver as well. Roll 47 had a couple more finds. First is a 1947 from Philly and 1959 from Denver. Next roll had yet another nickel from the 40s, and it is 1948 from Philly. Last roll of the box gave us one last find from the 50s, and it is 1954 from Denver. And overall, this box wasn't too bad. Got a good amount from the 40s and from the 50s. A couple nice ones in the 50s as well. One Canadian foreign, and the best find of that box was that proof ender, which ended up being a 2009 S proof, which is a pretty cool find. I am going to add a second box onto this video, and it is right here. We do have one ender right here. It's just a 1947, but hopefully it's a good sign for the box. And we'll start with box 2, and I'll bring you in when we have the first find of this box. Roll 2, and box 2 is going to start off with a 40s nickel, and it is 1940 from San Francisco. Next roll, a couple more finds. First, we have another nickel from 1940. This one is from Denver, and we also have 1952 from Philly. Just opened roll number 8, and I didn't do the best job of opening it, and there are a lot of colors going on in this roll, but the one I'm interested in is this one right here. Maybe a silver war nickel, and it looks like it is. Definitely has the same wear, and it is. We have a 35% silver war nickel. It's in 1944 from Denver. That is an awesome find. Definitely the best find of the hunt so far. Same roll as the silver, had a couple other finds. First is a very, very damaged 1948. I believe it's out of Philly, can't really tell with the mint mark, but it's a 1948 something. And it also had 1952 from San Francisco. Roll 18, we have a couple more 50s finds, and they are just 1958 and 1959, both from Denver. Just opened roll 20, and I see the edge of the second foreign of the hunt. First foreign for this box, probably going to be a Canadian nickel, which it looks like it is, and it's from 1989. Roll 23, and we have another nickel from 1952. This one is another one from San Francisco. Roll 25, halfway point of box 2, and we have another nickel from the 40s, and it is 1941 from Philly. Roll 26 had a few finds from the 50s, and they were 1952 from Denver, 1958 Denver, and 1959. That's also from Denver. Roll 27 was that 1947 ender. Nothing else in the roll, but it is 1947 Philadelphia. Roll 31 had a couple 40s nickels, and they were 1946 from Philly, and pretty damaged 1949 from Philly as well. Roll 34, and I just found the oldest nickel of the hunt so far. It is a 1939. Unfortunately, it's just out of Philly, not the DDR, and it does have a few rim dings with some damage, but either way, first 30's a nickel of the hunt. That's a great find. Roll 39, and I just uncovered another nickel from 1939 that will tie the oldest to the hunt. Do see a 1957 back in the roll that I'll just grab first. It's just a 1957 Denver, but it's 1939. Let's see if it will have a mint mark and be a key date. And of course, it doesn't have a mint mark. It's just a 1939 Philly. It doesn't look like the DDR either, but still, second 39 nickel of the box. That's awesome. Next roll had a couple of nickels from the 50s, and they were just another 1958D and 1959D. Roll 42, and I'm pretty sure I just uncovered the second proof of the hunt. It's in 1962, and proofs before 1968 were made in Philadelphia, and this is a 1962 Philly. Looks like it has a proof strike, and it's hard to tell on camera, but it definitely has the luster of one of the older proofs. The just mirror finish, not really any cameo. Older proofs didn't really have cameo, but I'm pretty sure this is a 1962 Philadelphia proof nickel, and if it is, that's a great find. Roll 43 had another find from the 40s, and it is 1940, minted in Denver. Next roll, and we have another nickel from 1940, but this one's from Philly. Roll 46 had a couple more nickels from the 40s. First one is a 1941 from Denver that looks like a metal detecting find, and we also got another 1948 from Philly. Roll 49, and we have a couple more finds. First is actually a pretty nice 1946 out of Denver. It even has a little bit of detail left on the steps, so that's definitely a great find. Then we have just another 1957 out of Denver. Last roll of the last box produced one last find, which was 1954 out of San Francisco. Now let's go on to the wrap-up. Both boxes have been hunted, so let's go over the finds. We ended up with 15 estimates, 2 foreigns, both Canadians from 1983 and 89. Then we did end up with 4 2009s as well. And then we also got 2 proofs, which were 1962, and I did wipe this one down, and I'm definitely a lot more confident that this is a proof. Definitely has the proof luster and the proof strike. Definitely is a little circulated, but I'm about 90% sure that's a proof. And then the other one we got, which was the reverse facing ender, 2009 as proof. Even though it's circulated, still a great find. Now let's go on to the older Jeffersons. We got actually a lot for 2 boxes, definitely a lot more than normal. We got some pretty big stacks of common later 50s. And then a better date, 1958 Philly, and a couple of nicer ones like this 55 Denver and this 46 Denver that we just got out of that last roll. And the best find of the hunt, we did get a silver. It is a 1944 Denver, 35% silver war nickel. Definitely always a great hunt when you can find one of those, especially along with a couple of proofs and a great variety of finds. This was definitely a great 2-box nickel hunt.